comes to friendships, I think the one piece of advice that I would give anybody, and this might sound controversial, you lot might think I'm a bitch after I say this, but I'm gonna say it anyway. Do not befriend the girl that says she has no friends. Anything along those lines, anything along the lines of, I struggle to make friends, I don't have any long-standing friends, oh my God, you've got so many friends, I don't have any, can I hang with you and your friends? No. Stay, or if you value your mental health, stay away from that babe. Listen to the words she's telling you. I do not have any friends. Now, do not be like me, who in the past hears these words and thinks, oh, I'm so sad that she hasn't got any friends. Like, you know, I've got all of these friends. Let me introduce you to all of them and all of that stuff. And we'll just be one big happy family. Don't be like me. Do not be fickle. Like, I've got this real problem. I don't know if it's a problem. I don't know if it's a good thing. But I've got this thing where I always see someone as nice straight away. I always give people the benefit of the doubt. I don't have that energy where I see someone and think, oh, you're not well-meaning. I always feel like people mean well because I mean well. So I would hope you mean well. But what I find with these kind of girls is at some point, whilst you're friends with them, you will see why they don't have any friends. Now, I'm not talking about the girl that's had to relocate, because like my best friend, for example, she'd relocated to Dallas and obviously she's trying to navigate her way and find friends there. But even if you've relocated, she's moved countries. If any of those girls that she meets goes on her socials, she's gonna see me commenting on every single picture. So if you wanted tea on her, you can come to me. Like, you can see that that person does have friends. I'm talking about those girls that they don't have any friends from school. They don't have any friends from college or sixth form. They don't have any friends from uni. Like, they don't have any friends from work that they've worked with for a long while. It's just you. And now somehow you found me. And now somehow me being me, we've now become a duo. Like, every single time I've been friends with a girl like that, I've always learned the hard way. It's either they become ever so jealous and envious, or they become really like competitive. And do you know what? In my friendship group, we're not competitive. In everything, I am going to support you. And that's how I am with all of my friends. So when I meet a girl that's like, oh, if you've been to Tenerife, I've been to 11 Tenerife. You've got to go. But anyways, let me stop ranting on. But that girl that tells you she has no friends, oh baby, believe her.
Actually, the girl with no friends is not always the problem. And honestly, I am tired of hearing, oh, if she don't have any friends, she's a red flag, because not every girl who doesn't have friends is a red flag. For me personally, I don't have any people that I would consider to be like close friends, but I do have acquaintances. I don't have any friendships with women where I can pick up the phone and call them and, you know, we could chop it up. I don't have a friend where we could mutually talk about our goals and be like uplifting to each other. I don't have a friend that I could just call up and ask for advice when I need it. And I don't have a friend that I could call if I'm in need and I need someone to vent to, like, and not in like a trauma bonding way, but just someone to talk to. I don't have that, but I do have acquaintances. I just don't have any close friends, and it's not because I'm the problem, because that's definitely not the case. The reality is there are so many reasons why a woman could not have any friends, unrelated to her being the problem or even her inability to maintain healthy relationships. And I'm just going to keep emphasizing on this topic because I really need the girls to understand that just because you call a person your friend does not mean they're your friend. Not everyone that you give the friend title is worthy of that title, and that's just my opinion. Just because you have a lot of people around you and y'all call each other friend doesn't mean that that person genuinely cares about you or they mean well for you. And I feel like when it comes to all forms of media, and I'm talking about like TV shows, movies, even social media, and just the perception that it has of friendships, it's almost like there's this need to have friendships in order to be validated that you are in fact valuable. And based off of how many people you engage engage with, it will determine your value on how popular you are. But the reality is, the people who be having the most people around them oftentimes tend to feel the loneliest. But the relationships are so shallow and they tend to lack so much depth that it's like the person doesn't really feel seen, valued, or understood as a person. Like, imagine having so many people around you, and from the outside looking in, it looks like you're the happiest person. But in reality, even with all those people around you, you feel so lonely because you know deep down inside those relationships aren't deep, they're not solid, and they're not genuine. So to anyone who may not have a lot of friends, like, don't feel bad about it. I think it's really important that we learn how to be comfortable in our solitude and really just learn to enjoy our own company, because at the end of the day, like, I feel like we should all be our own friends first, and then that will help you build other friendships, if I'm being completely honest. And in my personal opinion, being that I want solid people around me, I would rather be alone than to be surrounded by people and I still feel alone. You get what I'm saying? Like, if I don't feel like we're compatible and I feel like we're forcing things, or I feel like it's just not flowing and we're not really connecting, I'd rather just not have the friendship. Or if I feel like I can't trust you, or if I feel like I have to always be in my head wondering if you want the best for me, or if I feel like you're unhealthy for me, or even just my growth or my betterment as a person, you gotta go. Because at the end of the day, I have to choose myself before I choose anybody. And one thing about it, I feel like the realest, most genuine, authentic people, they're not fiending to have friendships. Oftentimes, they be the people that don't have a lot of friendship. And I feel like it's because we're not trying to fit in. We're not trying to mold ourselves into be something that we're not just to be accepted by people. Like, we're not trying to be liked by people. And it's not to say like we're mean people. I can't speak for everybody, but it's like I'm not going to show up in a way that's inauthentic to myself just to please another relationship. I want to show up as me fully and be comfortable in my body, comfortable in my skin, in my mind. And then from there, I'll build relationships. But to say like I have to mold myself into be something, I'm gonna feel like I'm being fake with myself. And I don't like fake people. So it's just like, if I'm being fake and I know I'm being fake, that's a problem. You get what I'm saying? And oftentimes we be seeing through people's BS. So it's just like, for me, if I know I want a healthy relationship in all forms, I'm not going to compromise on that just to have people around me. Like I said, I have learned to really enjoy my own company. Like, I genuinely enjoy my solitude, especially being an introverted person. I don't have to have a lot of people around me in order to have fun. Like, I feel like I make myself happy. But it's not to say that I wouldn't want friends, because I would love friends, but it just has to make sense. So please let go of the idea that if a person doesn't have friends, then they're the problem, because it's not always true. But don't get me wrong, there are girls where they don't be having friends, and it's very much because they're the problem. Like, I'm gonna make that very clear. There are girls out here who really are a walking red flag, and that's why they don't have friends, but not everyone is like that. I think it's really important that you have a level of discernment to where you can read a person, but also, you know, like, get to know a person. Of course, like, you got to be careful. Like, I always say this in my videos, don't be quick to build relationships. Allow time to see things grow organically, so that way you're giving yourself the opportunity to be able to decide, like, okay, does she not have friends because of whatever reasons, but it's not because she's toxic? Or you get around the toxic girl who don't got no friends, and then you realize why she don't have no friends. And the reason why I say it's so important to take your time with when it comes to deciding this is because you don't want to find yourself too deep in the relationship with a toxic girl and you end up getting burned. You get what I'm saying? So take your time and really use your discernment, use your intuition to really decide, like, okay, is this a person that I could build a relationship with? Because it's like, y'all, do not demonize the girls out here who don't have friends. Especially, I feel like in today's, like, just society, a lot of people aren't really engaging the way that we used to back in the day, especially pre-social media. So I think that's also something people have to understand. Like, it's going to be a lot more common that there are people who don't have genuine friendships. Especially with social media, we've gotten to a place where it appears like we're connected, connected, but we're not connected. Like, you could have a friend on social media that you really was cool with in person, but social media, it gives you guys this false perception of you're still connecting, but it's like, are y'all really connecting? Like, me just seeing your story and seeing your post doesn't mean like we have that closeness to where eventually it doesn't feel like a real relationship. It feels like a social media relationship. So I think people have to really take that into account. So before I share my list of different reasons why girls may not have friends, I'm gonna let y'all hear it from some people first, and then I'm gonna come back and give my list. So let's roll the clip.
Can we stop with the narrative that, oh, it's a red flag when a girl don't have that many friends? Like, no, that's a lie. The realest females don't be having no friends. Why? Because they don't be going for that fake shit. And they not finna sit up and smile and kiki in everybody's face. Most fakest bitch you know right now. Everybody her friend, everybody her cousin. Them the bitches you gotta watch out for. Yep.
I always see people say, like, if she don't have friends, then that's a red flag, like she's the problem, blah, 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 blah. And in some cases, that might be the case. But maybe, just maybe, what if God is trying to show you that you have a higher calling? What if God is trying to show you with every friendship that you have that fails that, you know what? I have more for you. And in order for you to reach what I have called you to do, you need to be in isolation. You need to be separated. You are not like the rest of them. You are chosen. Maybe it's God showing you that you need to be a friend to yourself. You need to give yourself that love that you give those friends. You need to give yourself the loyalty that you give your friends. You need to give yourself that in order to reach what God has called you to do. If you are trying to reach new heights, become a new person, create a new lifestyle for yourself, that requires a lot of separation. And also, a lot of times we're befriending people based on our traumas. We're befriending people based on, the places that we liked as kids, the friends that we thought that we wanted as kids, So sis, if you're in a season and you feel like you're losing all your friends, you feeling like things have changed, you feel like people are being weird, you feel like people aren't supporting you, you're just feeling all these things. Sometimes it's not about conflict. Sometimes it's not about beefing. A lot of times it's just God separating you. He's separating you because you got things to do. Separating you so you can heal. He's separating you that you can learn who you are at the higher calling and then attract the people that are for you in that season. I'm learning.
Wait, you telling me we all 30 plus up in here and ain't got no friends? Well, hello, where y'all been all my life? Hey, gang. Hey, solo girly gang. Listen, if you in the gang, hit a little comment below, little gang symbol, because I'm trying to see something. What's up? I'm so happy to have found my tribe. We gonna have a time on here, y'all. But it's even some girls in their 20s like, oh, yeah, I don't have no friends either. So let me tell y'all, for the ones like, oh, I don't believe her. Everybody got friends, this and the third. Let me tell you something. You probably ain't got no friends either, but you just don't know it yet. Now, hear me out. So for my solo girlies, gang, we probably already experienced this either early on in life, like I talked about in my first video, or just throughout life. We understood the difference and have now defined the difference between an associate and a friend. So I never told y'all I didn't have any associates, because let me tell you something. I told y'all I'm about my business. I'm an IT babe. So I go to networking events. I speak as a keynote speaker at conferences and different things like that. So when I tell you I'm going to make these connections, I'm going to make these connections and I'm going to make associates, but those people are not my friend. When my man break my heart for the 15th time and I roll around on the 4 o'clock, I'm not calling those people. When I get a promotion, if I get fired, whatever going on with me, I don't have people to call in those spaces. I'm even in a Bible study group. I might call them, okay, did y'all catch the sermon? I missed the sermon. Let's talk about the scripture. But I'm not talking to those people all the time about my intimate things, because these have not blossomed into friendships yet. One mistake I used to make in my past, and a lot of my solo girlies gonna feel me when I say this, is turning every associate into a friend and trying to make it a friendship. Just because you go out and drink with that person does not make that person your friend. Okay, just because y'all can shop together, y'all like the same 2 to 3 movies, that doesn't make your person your friend. So when I say I don't have any friends, I mean I don't have any friends. I have associates. But you know what? I am so excited that there are so many other women out here experiencing this. So go ahead and hit that comment gang below, because I'm really trying to see something. We finna, it's us.
Like, when you see people post their friends online, You only see them going out and being like, oh my God, I love you. She's my bestie. We had the best time. And you don't see them talk shit about each other. You don't see them arguing. You don't see that one friend being left out and sitting at home crying because they didn't get invited. I was that friend. Like at one point in my life, I was posting about how much I loved my friends and how good they were to me. And it looked from the outside that I had this picture perfect friend group. But if you go through my Snapchat memories at the same time, I was crying in my room. I was so sad, so depressed because my friends didn't like me. My friends weren't including me. Like if you compared my public post to my private post, you'd see two completely different stories, two completely different sides. I was trying to make it seem like my friends were the best friends ever and I loved my life, but my friends were making me question if we were even friends, if they even like me.
I don't have a group of girls. I don't have besties. I don't have a best friend. I've always been a really solo person. Like my Enneagram personality is type 4, the individualist. Like I've always been a solo kid when I was really young. I just wanted to play on my own, be on my own. I like being in my bedroom. Like I've always been a very solo person. I don't know if it's that or a mix of that and the fact that when I was in school, I had really toxic friendships. I had a really difficult experience with friendships. My best friend was my bully. If you know, you know. And I just find it hard to connect. However, I always have this feeling of emptiness and longing for this friendship. I've never been on a girls' trip. I've never had like a birthday party with friends. Like my birthday party is family. And the thing is I'm such a family person as well. Like to be honest, I'd love to spend my days with my sister, with my niece and nephews, hanging out with my mum. I'm a homebody. I love being around my boyfriend. Like I've always been like that, and I know so many girls, people are like that. However, it doesn't take away the fact that I would just love to have friends. And I've always felt like I must be a massive bitch. There must be a reason. I must be the problem. It's difficult, but the thing is I consider myself a very nice person, a very good friend. I will have your back. If you need me, I'm there. If you ring me in the middle of the night, I'm there for you. I will trust you. I'm trusting, I'm trustworthy. I'm a girl's girl. I will have your back. I will be on the phone to you to whatever time, giving you relationship advice if you're going through it. I will never judge you for going back to that guy again and again and again. Internally, I might have my opinions, but I'll support you, okay? There's been people in my life especially where we get really close and then we just like drift, and it's not even a situation of like I fall out with everyone. Like I don't do fallouts. Like I don't fall out with people. We just like detach and we become disconnected. I just know I'm not alone. I've spoke about this on my podcast and so many people have said to me like, I'm so glad you said this because I can really resonate with you. I can really relate to you. So the reason I'm making this TikTok is to reassure anybody that feels the same as me. It's really embarrassing to admit, and I think it makes us sound like we're really horrible people, but I think it's really important to put out there that it doesn't make you a horrible person if you don't have friends. And if anyone wants to be friends with me, please can we be friends? All right.
I want to talk about women who are friendless, women who have no friends. Oftentimes when I hear discourse on this subject, the reasons we attribute to that situation are like, she's a man stealer, she's rude, she's mean, she's awful, or she's weird and strange, or she's drama. And all those things are true too. Those traits and tendencies might be the reason why some women find themselves without platonic relationships. I know some women who have those traits and tendencies and have plenty of friends in spite of being mean or drama or man stealer. So it's something to think about, right? I want to offer other reasons why this happens. The first is you have women who are leaving all-consuming situations. So I've seen women who go into a total hole during motherhood, especially when the child is young, or they are in a very demanding job and it becomes all consuming. And while they might have social connections, they have no friends because that requires nurturing. So people fall off during the season. You're not engaging, calling, texting because you're so consumed by these things that take up not just your time and energy, but like mental capacity. And when you emerge from these seasons, you realize like, oh my gosh, where did everybody go? The second reason could be because of a move. Now, a lot of women will say to me, I moved to a new city and I feel like I'm starting over. I wish I had $1 for every time a woman assured me, oh, I have people, I really do. They're, long distance now, but, I need people here. And that's good. You should have people who can offer you like daily companionship and you can do life together, right? So you should have friends. nearby, right? But they're friendless in that area because of that particular life transition. They're in a completely new place and kind of have to start from scratch and establishing ties. That's one. A lot of my high achievers, women who love their job and they are like in it and they're so worried about like conquering the next goal. Now they have some maybe surface level relationships, but a lot of these women secretly report to me not having like actual friends. And these are women who are likable and charismatic. They have no shortage of like social connections, but when we're saying friends, like a person you could call and be like, I'm really struggling, don't have anyone. Because whenever they get in a new situation or an opportunity to develop a new friendship, they're leading with their accomplishments. They're leading with the brand. They don't know how to operate in the other aspects of what they have to offer and who they are. That becomes their identity, is the business, the entrepreneurship, the job. And so they don't have friends, because friends, it's not necessarily about what you can do for them professionally. You might have a lot of professional colleagues and connections, but like friends, people who like you for you and what you can offer, but they rarely tap into that side of them. So they are friendless in that way. Another reason sometimes women find themselves in a season of friendlessness, I'm just throwing it out there, okay? But don't apply, let it fly. They get involved with romantic partners who monopolize their time. And if these partners are especially controlling or guilt them for going out with friends or talking to friends or choosing friends instead of them, and they've been in that relationship long enough, it becomes very isolating. And I have a lot of women who come to me after that relationship is over. And they're like, man, I was so involved in this and I let this person dictate what I could do that I realized like my friendships fell off and I haven't been positioning myself since to invite new connections into my life. And then another reason I want to offer is if a woman is in a season of change and her tastes are different, her worldviews have evolved, her interests have changed, and all of the connections she has were developed within those circumstances. And she realized that's going to require her to develop new ties. That woman might find herself in a season of friendlessness. And so I just want to throw that out there because I know there's a stigma with friendlessness. And if I'm just keeping it totally real, there's even some research that finds that admitting that you don't have friends or talking about being friendless, it's not helpful because people see you as a social risk because they're wondering, why don't you have friends? And so I think that's why some people find themselves in a cycle because you don't want to admit it. So you're not pursuing, the goal of having those needs satisfied because what do people think? It's a whole thing. If you are a woman who is in a season of friendlessness, I just hope that you feel validated.
A lot of prettiest females always got no friends.
Because people are jealous of us. I don't care. You know what? I'm tired of being humble about this. People are insecure. People are jealous. Unless you be a woman of color, let you be plus size, then they really don't like that confidence. We live in our own little beautiful bubble where we don't have to compete with nobody. What is there to compete for? What do I have to compete? Me? Compete with anybody? For what? So when you have that attitude, someone who's insecure, they might be attracted to the light that's in you, but then when they get close enough, they want to snuff it out. And they don't like that I'm always going to win. I'm always going to be good. It doesn't matter how you try to come at me, I'm always going to win. And they can't handle that. That's really it. I'm tired of trying to find a deeper meaning, babes. That's it. That's it.
A woman with no friends or a dot in her circle is a very, very secure woman. Trust and believe me.
So y'all heard the girls. The girls with no friends ain't always the problem. There are so many different reasons why the girls will not have friends. So now I'm gonna just give a list of other possible reasons why the girls may not have any friends. So let's get into that. So for one, it could be the introverted girl. Like, All my introverted girlies, I'm gonna need y'all to step to the front because I feel like we're so misunderstood and it's so frustrating. Y'all, I don't know what it is, but people be so threatened by introverted, quiet people who just be in their own little bubble. And it's just like, why are you so bothered? Like, why does it bother you so much that like we are just quiet? You know what I'm saying? Like, we're quiet, we're focused, we're doing our own thing, we don't need attention. How is that something to be villainized for? But I realize people who tend to villainize introverted people or just quiet people is oftentimes insecure people because they can't read you. They feel like, oh, you're too stush, or you feel like you're better than. And it's just like, no, like being an introverted person, you really are just comfortable in your own company. But also, I feel like for me, I get overstimulated easily. Growing up, I didn't really understand that I was an introverted person because I was always like the popular loner. So it's like, even though I would have preferred to be by myself, I feel like people always latched onto me and I was always around people. So I never really got to understand myself for who I was. So I found myself to always be overstimulated. I realized just during that time, like I preferred like smaller crowds and more intimate settings than I did like the big parties and just big crowds. Like it made me real anxious. It made me feel like, you know what, like this is a little too much for me. I can enjoy it for a little bit, but then after that I just want to go back to my own bubble. But people sometimes can't really understand that because to them it feels like you're basically like pushing them aside, or people will basically feel rejected by the introverted person. Also, I'm a person where I need to read the room. Like I need to feel the energy of the room. I need to pick up on the vibes so that I know what I'm working with, what I'm walking into, who's around, how to interact with people. But it's just like when people then show that they're threatened and then they start to do like this mean girl behavior, or they feel like they want to try to isolate you, when it's just like, you're doing me a favor, thank you. But it's just like when you're doing all of that, I'm now feeling like this is not a safe environment for me to open up in. So yeah, I'm gonna be even more introverted, and now I'm not gonna say anything to you, and now you're gonna be even more bothered. So I found that, especially in my adulthood, like being an introverted person, and it's not to say, when I say introverted, I'm not talking about, oh, I'm like quiet to where I block people out. I mean, like I come, I present myself, I greet people, I, you know, interact where necessary, but I'm not gonna be in people's face just to be in people's face. And I feel like people who need to be in people's face, or people who feel the need to be validated by having so many people around them, those are oftentimes the people who feel threatened. And it's almost like they take your quietness as a feeling of rejection, because it's like, why aren't you up under me, or why aren't you trying to be friends with me? And it's just like, listen, I'm just chilling. Is that a problem? Can I just chill in peace? It's like they'll mistaken your quiet confidence for you being stuck up, or you thinking you're better than, when it's just like, no, I need some time to open up. But when I'm sensing hostility from you, I'm automatically going to be like, okay, this is not somewhere I want to open up in. So I'm not going to feel bad about that. So as an introverted person, I just realized like I can't be around like insecure people, or people who feel like they need this constant validation, or they need to constantly like just be engaging. Like it's just a lot for me, and it just feels like they're real codependent, and I just don't like that. Because it's like, if I take a step back, you can't feel some type of way about it. Like it has nothing to do with you. It's just, I just need space for myself. But if you're taking it personal, even when it's communicated, it's hard to have relationships that way. So that's oftentimes why I feel like introverted people, they tend to get along with other introverted people, because it's like, we know how to enjoy time, but we also know when it's time to separate, and we also know not to feel like a way about it. Then the other type of person could be a person who's just seen as different. So it could be a person where you have like different interests, different hobbies, different beliefs than your in like immediate environment. So of course it'll be a little more difficult for you to make friends, because you don't really resonate with the people that's around you until you say extend yourself to try out different environments, different people, put yourself in different spaces that you do resonate with. But until you do intentionally put yourself in those environments that you resonate with, you're not really going to mesh well with the people in that immediate environment because y'all are not really compatible. And one example that I could think of off the top of my head is, let's say for example, if it's a black girl in an urban neighborhood who might be into anime, or she might be into, let's say, like rock and, you know, like emo stuff. That's the best example that I could think of off the top of my head. So it'll be more difficult for her to engage or to really relate to the people in her environment because they might not be into that as well. So yeah. Then it could be a person who frequently relocates, and I know this was mentioned in one of the TikTok videos, and I noticed that people who tend to relocate a lot, whether it's because of work or school or, you know, like family reasons and things like that, I've came to realize that when it comes to people who are not stable in their location, they tend to have this like detached attachment style because they don't want to get comfortable where they're currently at because they know that they're not going to be there anymore. Or, you know, like they don't want to make friendships knowing that they might have to separate from them, or they may just have traumas from building relationships and then having to be pulled away from them. So they'll tend to not really get as close with people in their environments just for that reason of not wanting to experience those feelings again. So they'll kind of just keep relationships at a surface level with a just in case mindset, and they don't really allow things to get deep. So that could be another reason why. And then another reason is referring to motherhood, which was also mentioned. And trust me, I've noticed this firsthand with my nephew on how demanding it is to raise a kid, let alone people that got multiple kids. And if you don't have like a good support system, even if you do, I feel like it can still be demanding. Like raising kids is not as simple as I feel like people try to make it out to seem. Like you have to take care of yourself, you got to take care of your kid, but like while you're taking care of your kid, I notice a lot of mothers tend to like neglect themselves, or it's hard for you to balance out taking care of yourself, taking care of your kid, if you gotta work, if you got school, or you know, whatever other stuff you got going on. And again, like your support system really does matter. So I can definitely understand how motherhood can kind of isolate a person. I don't want to say like isolate, but you're so focused on your responsibilities that you have, especially a child. Like they cannot take care of themselves, you have to take care of them, you know, I mean that's your responsibility. It's like you have to show up for them and pour into them, and sometimes you don't even feel like you have enough in your cup. So I could definitely understand how motherhood again can isolate a person from friendships. And then another example is like, say the girl who has a very demanding schedule, or even just in a transitionary period in her life. So say for example, like if a person is in school and they have like a really demanding schedule, whether they're in undergrad, grad school, or whatever degree that they're getting. Listen y'all, universities and trainings are not cheap. So if a person is investing into their education and they're paying for it, but also they're investing their time, I'll be damned if I'm not doing what I have to do and being focused in order to get the results that I want to get. And a lot of times, even from personal experience, school can be so demanding on a person. I actually think it should be illegal how these teachers be operating, because it could be one teacher that would give you such a heavy workload, and it's like, do you think you're my only teacher? Like I have other teachers, but some of these teachers don't be caring. On top of say like the difficulty level of certain classes, it can really be demanding of a person. Some of the girls really don't be getting rest, and they be so stressed because of their studies. So I can definitely understand if they don't have time to mingle. And to use myself as an example, when I was 20, I started my business, and when I tell ya, during that time period, I really started to mature quicker, and I was just taking my life a lot more seriously. And I'm not gonna lie, I quickly realized how it was difficult to be ambitious and locked in on my goals while still trying to hold on to relationships where I felt like we weren't really equally yoked, or we weren't on the same page anymore. We just weren't on the same type of time anymore, to be honest. And I'm not gonna lie, I started to view time differently, and I started to value my time differently. Like after a long day of work, I would be so burnt out, and I feel like my family, I had to engage with them, right? But when it came time to say like talking to certain friends, I didn't have time to gossip. I didn't have time to talk about things that I didn't feel like were adding value to just my life, if I'm being honest. honest, I didn't have time to keep having the same type of conversations. And I didn't have time to sit on the phone and listen to a person vent about their problems. And honestly, for a while, I started to feel like really guilty and just burdened with the idea that I wasn't being a good friend. But the reality was, I had to be real with myself. I was outgrowing my friendships. And I was really starting to get to a position where I felt like I had to choose myself and my growth, or I had to choose staying in relationships that felt like it was keeping me stagnant or holding me back from being the best version of myself. So I'm not gonna lie, I had to make cuts where necessary. And when it comes to choosing myself and my well-being and just my growth, I'm going to choose that every time. And it's different if it was a friend that I genuinely valued and respected, and vice versa. But when I also came to the understanding that I was being those things for those people, but they weren't giving me that in return, it was easy for me to let go, because it didn't feel like I was holding on to anything valuable. Because let's be honest, people say things like, if you really care about something and you really want to make time for something, no matter how busy you are, if you value that thing and you really want it in your life, you're going to show up regardless. Like, you're gonna make time. And I completely agree with that. But like I said, when you realize that the friendships just aren't fruitful and that they're not healthy for you, it was easy for me to make those cuts. And I'm not gonna lie, even now in my life, during just my transition of closing down my business and just starting new ventures, I be feeling like time flies so fast, to where, again, like, I'm viewing my time so much more differently. I really feel like there are not enough hours in the day, and I feel like we're losing time. But maybe I'm bugging, because I don't know, the time just don't feel like it once felt back in the day. And I always say, like, is it because when you're a kid you don't really have any responsibilities, so the day drags out? But when you're an adult, you have so much things to do that time flies by quick? Or is it that time is just flying by quick? Because I don't understand. But anyways, back to what I was saying. Like, I feel like now that time is flying so quick and I'm trying to get things done, and I'm about to turn 26. Like, I'm super locked in on my life and just things that I want to see for myself. I'm so tunnel vision right now that I really don't be wanting to let anyone in my energy if I feel like you're going to throw me off and you are going to slow me down. And I just feel like if you're not on the same type of time that I'm on, if you're not growth minded, if you're not trying to get to it, if you're not trying to make your dreams come true and become the better version of yourself, I don't have the time. And sometimes I be feeling like, oh, is that a little insensitive? But it's just like, when you realize that a lot of people are not serious about their life and they're not serious about really making things happen, I just feel like I don't want to be guilt tripped about not having time, coming from a person who is not using their time wisely. You understand what I'm saying? Like, if you're not being productive in your life and I'm trying to be productive in my life, we're not compatible, because you're going to be wanting attention from me that I feel like I can't give you because I'm using that energy on something else. When it's just like, all the attention that you're wanting from me, how about you put it into yourself and really help yourself grow? That's the space I'm at. Let's both individually be working on ourselves, and then when we come together, it's, you know, like, fruitful. But just to say like I'm doing something, you're not doing anything, I'm not even gonna lie, I just don't have the time for that right now. And also, another major reason why a girl may not have any friends is because there are periods in our life where God is going to bring us into an isolation season. And y'all, the isolation season, if you use that isolation season well and you work on yourself, you unlearn certain bad traits and you relearn positive traits, and you really take the time out to get focused on how you want to move in life, that isolation season is your path to victory, okay? Like, that isolation period will be where God will sit you down. And of course, we all have free will, right? But at the end of the day, isolation seasons are necessary. It's so purposeful, but it's all about your perspective. You can either use that time to sulk and just be like miserable because you don't have people around you. But in that moment, that's where you have to work on your codependency. You just have to work through like your negative mindset. But when you are in your isolation season and you really sit with God and you allow yourself to hear and just really embody the energy of the best version of yourself, y'all, it is literally the best thing. That time period is where you really reflect on your life and you shed a lot of dead weight. You cut people, places, things, habits, mindsets that is not beneficial to you. And I'm telling you, I've noticed that every time I've used my isolation season in the right way and I really was intentional about it, God has always leveled up my life. And another thing that I want to say, in your isolation season, it's your time to really slow down and to really think about the parts of your life that you want to change and the things that you just want to make better. And one thing about it, during your isolation season, if you are not listening to your intuition and the guidance that you're getting, you are going to delay your blessings because you're not making the cuts where necessary, or you're not sitting still enough and you're not allowing yourself to really see what you're supposed to be seeing in the moment. And a lot of times, people who are going through their spiritual awakenings or their level ups, they will find themselves in isolation season because God is working on you and preparing you to level up in your life. You just got to work hand in hand with God, because at the end of the day, like, your life, you are co-creating it with God. So oftentimes people who are leveling up their faith or they're elevating spiritually, they will find themselves in isolation seasons. So that's another reason why a person may not have any friends. And also, I mentioned this briefly, but when it comes to social media and just the current climate of the world, a lot of people are isolated. Like, we feel like we're so connected, but we're so disconnected from each other, and it's actually crazy. Social media was made with the intention to keep in touch with people who are at a distance, but it made people who were close with feel distant. It's the craziest thing. We have this false sense of like interacting and friendships when it's like it's not even really giving that. Also, another type of person could be the shy, socially awkward girl. It's not that she don't want to make friends, but it's sometimes people are just shy and they don't really feel that confidence to mingle with people or put themselves out there, put themselves in different environments. Oftentimes because they have this fear of judgment or rejection. Also, another type of person could be a person who has low self-esteem. Like, they may not feel like they're valuable enough to even be in relationships. They don't see their own value to understand why they would make a good friend. And a lot of times it could be based off of their trauma of people making them feel like they're not good enough, or, you know, like just their own insecurities. And finally, to end this list off, it is the girl who has past trauma with friendships. And I was that girl, I'm not gonna lie. When you go through certain friendship trauma, and especially for me, I feel like it was back to back to back. I had got to a point where I'm like, you know what, I'm over this, I'm good off friends. And I've made several friendship videos if you ever want to check that out. But when you go through friendship trauma, and like I said, for me personally, when I went through it back to back to back, it creates this sense of people are just not good people, and you feel like super guarded. You feel like you need to protect yourself. But I realized that was me operating out of trauma, and I did make a whole video about how I worked through that. But first, I had to hold myself accountable on how I played a role in those friendships even forming, you know, the trauma bonds and all that toxic stuff. But also, I had to become confident in myself and knowing that, okay, I know myself and I know I'm a good person, and I know God ain't put me on this earth to be by myself. You get what I'm saying? Like, there's people out here that I will connect with eventually, and I had to make sure that I wasn't operating from a jaded space to where if I did encounter people like that, I wouldn't be able to see it because I was so jaded and I felt like, oh my gosh, like they might be out to get me, when it's just like not everybody is out to get you. You get what I'm saying? But it takes a person having to work through that trauma and just realizing that, okay, you've experienced bad situations in the past, learn from those situations, and now when it comes to your new relationships, be a lot more intentional about it. And now that I've built so much trust within myself, I trust that I have good judgment on the relationships, versus back in the day, like, I wasn't being intentional at all with the friendships I was making. It was kind of like, if you wanted to be my friend, I would be your friend. But now, yeah, it don't work like that. So it's just like I'm very intentional about who I allow into my space and just the relationships that I build, and it has to make sense to me, and I'm not going to rush into that process. So again, it really just came down to me being comfortable in my solitude, and when the time is right, I know God is going to bless me with beautiful, fruitful relationships, and I'm not in no rush for that, you know, like I will receive it when it presents itself. But until then, I'm chilling, okay? I'm enjoying myself and I'm really loving it. So I'm gonna say it one more time. The girl who don't have friends is not always the problem. Yes, there are girls out here who don't have friends and they are very much the problem, but not everybody is the problem. There are so many different reasons why a person cannot have friends. I think it's just taking the time out to really understand that person and their story before you judge them, because we all have different stories, we all have different experiences, and I think it's worth allowing a person the chance to show themselves before you just judge them. But if a person show you red flags, you better take that red flag for what it is, okay? But anyways, thank you for watching this video, and I hope to see you in another one. Bye.